Hey everybody, Ethan here. Welcome to Hello Road. So today, once again, I'm going to take advantage of this beautiful Southern California weather and do some car spotting. I'll pick a random neighborhood in Los Angeles and see what kind of interesting, cool, old, rad, and forgotten cars that we can find. Now you may notice that the driveway is looking pretty empty right now. My Chevy Nova twin cam, usually parked right over here. That's at the shop. I'm having a whole bunch of stuff done to it. And a lot of times my Scion XB is parked back here, and that's not here because that's getting a new clutch. And right over here we have my 1992 Jeep Wrangler YJ. Now this might actually be a pretty good vehicle to go car spotting in because it has no roof at the moment. It's really easy to see stuff, but I actually generally like to go car spotting on a bike because I'm not holding up traffic. I can often get a lot closer and I don't have to look for any place to park if I really want to take a closer look. So today I'm going to ride this. This is a Troxis. It's kind of a weird brand name, but that's what it's called. Troxis folding bike. I do kind of really like these folding bikes. They are very useful. All right, let's go see what we can find. Okay, here's a good one to start with, a Mercury Grand Marquis. Now this is a 4th generation, so this is anywhere from a 2003 to a 2011. So if you are a Panther platform expert, I'm sure you can tell me what one this is. They all kind of look the same to me, but maybe like a 2003, 2004. Now I'm pretty sure these were built in Canada. It's got the 4.6 liter V8, 4-speed automatic. So, you know, these things were pretty durable, not exactly fast, but very, very durable. Lots of parts available because the Crown Vics were used as police cars. Never owned one of these, kind of want to get one. I think I'd classify this as a cool grandma car. And it's the Grand Marquis LS, fancy. Ultimate edition. What else can we find on this beautiful day? Now I featured a Lexus GS in one of my previous car spotting videos. This one's a little bit worse for wear. Looks like it's been sitting a little while, but I've always really liked this body shape. This one looks like it's been lowered. It's got some aftermarket wheels. Paint is pretty trashed. It's got that sort of 90s champagne beige color that was seen on so many Toyotas and like Nissan Altimas. Here we go, a mid-90s Accord sedan. What is this, like a 1994 maybe? Still going strong. The paint is trashed, as you might expect for a mid-90s Japanese car that's been baking in the California sun for the last 3 decades. So this is a 5th gen Accord, and it looks like this is maybe one of the base models. It's got steel wheels and wheel covers, but even today, it's still a pretty good looking car. Throw some new paint on this thing, it would look awesome. Check that out over there in the driveway. Now this thing looks super old, but it's actually a 7th generation Chevy Suburban. What is this, maybe like a 74, 75, 76, something like that. Super cool, but look at the rust on the roof. That roof is holding on by a thread. I'm glad that it still exists, but I can't imagine trying to fix that thing up. According to the plates, it's still registered. It's got current registration, but I can't believe it. I guess that's the thing. There is no vehicle inspection here in California. We do have pretty strict smog checks, but you can drive around with a car that's like missing body panels and nobody will really care. So just pull the roof off of that, maybe make it a convertible Suburban. Check it out, another Grand Marquis. Ooh, this one's got really cool wheels. I like these sort of deep dish spoke wheels that this one has. This one looks like it's been sitting a while. I wonder if it gets driven all that much. Has a few more cosmetic issues than the last one did, but those wheels, that really makes up for it. Let's see what other cool stuff we can find. Just kind of hiding behind those trash cans over here is an old Isuzu Trooper. Now that is the definition of a box on wheels. So this is the first, and it was introduced way back in 1981 and it lasted all the way till 91. And if I remember correctly, this is one of the most rebadged vehicles. It was also rebadged as a Holden, a Chevrolet, a Subaru, among other things. I think this was called the Holden Jackaroo. What a crazy name. Looks like it's been sitting a while, but it's cool to see. Another pretty clean Nissan Hardbody, this one with the slightly extended cab. Like I mentioned in my last video, these are all over Los Angeles. These things, much like the Toyota truck competition that was sold at the same time, these are just really reliable. You know what? I think I spot an old front-wheel drive Oldsmobile up in the distance. Oh yeah, there it is. It's seen better days, but it still exists. The Oldsmobile Cutlass Sierra with all of those flags on it. Must be the international edition. And right there, that badge right in the front says fuel injection, because back then in the 80s and 90s, you had to let everybody know all about the latest technology that was inside your vehicle. Looks like the suspension needs a little bit of work. The paint needs a little bit of work, but it exists and it's got current registration. Here's another Isuzu rebadge right here, the Honda Passport. Now they somewhat recently brought this brand name back for their mid-size SUV that they sell nowadays. But originally, way back in '93, this was introduced as a badge-engineered version of the Isuzu Rodeo. And I always thought the Rodeo looked pretty good compared to its competition at the time. This one's been outfitted with some new headlights. It looks like somebody actually cares about this one. And I actually recently learned that this was actually built in the United States. I had no idea. I figured it was just badged in Japan and shipped over here, but it was actually built in Indiana. Bunch of really cool stuff in this driveway. That old Buick, I think it's a special. What is like a 50-something special? Could be wrong. I'm not really that knowledgeable when it comes to old Buicks, but you can tell by the 3 portholes on the side that it's a Buick. And what I'm kind of more interested in is this old Chrysler LeBaron convertible. Now, the LeBaron was a name that was put on all sorts of different platforms and chassis. This is actually a 3rd generation LeBaron, and I actually had a girlfriend back in the day that had one of these, and it was pretty fun to drive. Had a lot of power for the era. Now, you do see a lot of these around Los Angeles, oftentimes because people are living in them. Not sure if you've heard, but we do have a bit of a housing crisis here because they don't build enough housing. But anyway, here's sort of a Radwood era RV. It's built on the Econoline platform. It looks like it might be like an 86 or an 87, somewhere around that time frame. Jamboree by Fleetwood. Fleetwood's still around. Check out that cool old California plate. This California Sunset plate was only around from 1982 to 1987, and then they discontinued it, but I really think they should bring this one back. So chilling out over here under this carport, a 7th generation Celica GT. I remember really disliking this design when it came out, but I kind of dig it now. Maybe that's just because you just don't see small sporty cars anymore. It'd be really nice if Toyota brought this back, but I can't imagine they would sell very well here in the United States, where we love our gigantic gas-guzzling SUVs. Check out this Avalanche. So this is a 1st generation Chevy Avalanche. You can tell because it's really ugly. I mean, the later ones were pretty ugly too, but this one with all the body cladding, that was all the rage at GM back in the day. It debuted around the same time as the heavily cladded Pontiac Aztek and all of those other Pontiac vehicles that were covered with plastic. You know, the Honda Element had a bunch of plastic too. It was just the thing to do back then. Of course, later on, they got rid of a lot of that plastic. But yeah, this is a vehicle that, I don't know, it just hasn't aged well for me. It didn't look good when it came out, doesn't look good now. Feel free to disagree with me in the comments, but yeah, just not into it. Although, you know, give me a few more years and maybe the passage of time and a little nostalgia will kick in and I'll actually like it. You know, actually looking at it from this angle, it does sort of look like a lifted Subaru Baja. Wow, look at this lifted Jeep Cherokee XJ. Looks like it's been sitting here for a while, but man, that thing looks like at one point it was pretty capable. It's got a winch on it. It's got a fan on the exterior of the vehicle. This is one of the 2-doors. I don't often see many of these 2-door Cherokees anymore. And it is sort of fun to look back at these older SUVs and realize that they were really kind of the forefathers of the modern SUV, this and the Ford Explorer. All right, much like my last video, I did come across quite a few old Chevy trucks. Looks like it's still being driven every day. Very cool. And this really cool looking Custom 20 Deluxe. Why can't we get cool colors on trucks anymore? We've got yellow and orange sitting out here. That was super common, and now we get gray, white, black, silver, and more gray. Really cool to see them still on the road. A Hyundai Tiburon. It's a GT V6 Tiburon. Now this is a 2nd generation. It was introduced in 2001. Now I rarely see these. One thing that I never see is the 1st gen. I remember test driving one when they were new way back in the day, and I really liked it. I ended up not buying it because I was a little uncertain about buying a Hyundai back then. But yeah, this is a cool little sport compact car that didn't sell as well as like the Celicas and the Preludes of the day, but it was still pretty neat. Now if you remember the 1st gen, it had sort of the 4-eyed look to it. This one sort of keeps that a little bit, but goes with these flush headlights. I think I like the earlier gen looks a little bit better, but it's still neat to see one of these. Parked right nearby, a car you cannot kill, a Toyota Camry. Now this is a coupe. It's very rare that you see Camry coupes. Now this is an XV10, so this is probably somewhere between a 93 and a 97. I don't really know the visual differences between the model years, but it's somewhere in that date range. They also made an SE version of this with a V6 and a 5-speed manual. I would love to have one of those. Super cool. Now look at this Buick. I'm not even sure what this is. I have to rack my brain for a second. This is a LeSabre, right? Yep, a very, very brown LeSabre. And they continued that sort of porthole theme all the way through the 80s. They even brought it back, I think, in the early 2000s. But yes, very brown, very Malaise era. This is a 5th gen, so somewhere between 77 and 85. I wonder if I can tell by the headlights. Now, I don't know the exact year, but I would suspect that this is a slightly earlier one based on the grille and the headlights. Maybe a 78, 79? That would be my guess, something like that. Got the vinyl roof that's seen better days, but overall, this thing's in pretty good shape. These things are everywhere. Yet another Panther platform Grand Marquis. 3 in one neighborhood. This one also has that push button keyless entry. Very cool to see 3 of them today. Very nice Scion XB. Give these maybe like 2 to 3 more years and I think these are going to be considered a classic. Just such a unique car. Oh, check it out, C4 Corvette. This one's got some major paint work happening, but it's got some aftermarket wheels, maybe later model Corvette wheels. So based on the front end, it's not a super early C4. I don't know exactly what year it is, maybe like an 88, but I'm sure somebody here will chime in to let me know what year this is. Van life is not a crime. No, it's not. It may not be glamorous, it may not be a good idea, but it's not a crime. All right, so here's a pretty clean W124. Now this is a 300 CE. Now I will admit that I don't know a whole lot about these. I've always just really liked how they look. This one in particular needs a little bit of paint, but it's very clean. The body's super straight. Such a good looking car. All right, so here's something I haven't seen in a very long time. This is a 6th gen Mitsubishi Galant. This was also rebadged as a Dodge and an Eagle in Canada. Definitely a very unique design. I don't think it was maybe as visually successful as some of its competition of the era. It's a little weird looking, but I dig it, especially the fact that you just don't see these anymore. It's just so weird to come across this gen Galant. I honestly can't remember the last time I saw one. It does sort of have a little bit of a Camry vibe going on, sort of like a Camry from another dimension. Very cool. I like those wheels too. Well, if you know me, you know that I'm a pretty big fan of vans. Here's one I haven't seen in a while. This is a Mazda MPV. Now this is a 2nd gen MPV, so this is somewhere between 1999 and 2006, so just on the tail end of the Radwood era. The 1st gen was known as having a pretty good all-wheel drive system. I don't really know about the 2nd gen. This one seems to be maybe just front-wheel drive. But yeah, just a van that you don't really see that much anymore. All right, what other cool old stuff are we gonna find today? No way, another old Galant? Okay, this is the next generation Galant. I did not expect to see 2 old maroon Galants on the same road. So this is a 7th generation Galant. So when did this come out? This was, this must have been like mid-90s. It's just so funny that it's the exact same color as that other one. All right, so here's a car that I would love to own one day. Check out this old, super boxy Volvo sedan. Now this one has the flush mounted headlights, so what is this? Maybe like late 80s, maybe like an 89, something like that? Just a guess. This one's pretty rough, but these things are kind of like cockroaches. I see them all over LA still. Those wheels, I would say, are pretty sick. Kind of love them. No current registration on this thing, so hopefully it doesn't sit here much longer before it gets driven again. Very cool though. I always love seeing those. Oh, check this out, E36 M3. There was a point at which I wanted to buy one of these things when they weren't so crazy expensive. I kind of remember when these were like 10 grand, 12 grand, something like that. Now I haven't been able to find one for less than like 25. These things just skyrocketed in price. This one's in really, really good shape. Now, there was a little bit of controversy when these things first came out because the E36 M3 that we got here in the States didn't have as much horsepower as the Euro spec version. But from what I've been told, you actually kind of want the US version because it has more low-end torque. It's actually more fun to drive. Now, I've never compared the two, so I really can't comment on that, but it is an interesting thought. I would love to drive them back to back. These things are everywhere. Another 5th gen Accord in that very mid-90s sort of champagne beige color. Yet another old Chevy pickup truck in really excellent condition. That's such a cool color. Yet another old Chevy truck. Check out this Silverado. This looks like maybe mid-70s, something like that. I wonder if it still runs. I still think it's funny that Chevy called this series of truck the rounded line. It's so boxy. What's round about it? The only thing round about it are the headlights. All right, so here's another vehicle that I see all over Los Angeles streets, all over Southern California roads, the Toyota Previa. Now, I owned a Previa for a while. I had a white one. It was in pretty decent shape. I ended up selling it to my friend Serge, but these are just everywhere. I had no idea that they were so reliable, or at least people love them so much that they get them fixed up and keep them on the roads, but these are literally everywhere. And this one right here is indeed a supercharged model, and they introduced the supercharger to the Previa because compared to the competition of the day, it was a little bit underpowered. So the supercharger helped it compete a little bit better with those other V6 vans that were out. They just could not fit a V6 in this mid-engined platform. It wasn't designed for that. Now they also had an all-track, which was the all-wheel drive version, and I kind of think that the supercharged all-track is kind of the holy grail of the Previa lineup. It's basically a supercar, supercharged, mid-engined van. Yet another old Chevy truck. These are everywhere. This one's obviously still getting daily use. It's amazing to see all of these still on the road. So what is this, maybe a 67, something like that? Again, I'm not good with the years on these. And then right across the street, another Celica. This is not a GT, this is the base model, but once again, cool to still see these on the road. And then a couple other Toyotas just chilling here in this driveway. V6 4Runner and this old Camry that is a little bit rough. So this actually has a color matched bumper, which leads me to believe that it's the higher end trim. Some of the cheaper ones just had black plastic bumpers. Would be pretty cool to see these on the road again, but it looks like that's probably not gonna happen anytime soon. Okay, so we've seen a lot of old Chevy trucks, not that many old Ford trucks. Here's an old early 80s F-150. You still see these now and then on the roads here in Los Angeles. This one looks like it has not been on the road in a while. We've got a relatively modern Z right here, and then we have the Z32 right here. Now this is a car that I had a poster of on my wall when I was a kid. I love this thing. This one looks like it might have been in a wreck. The front end is a little tweaked, but it looks pretty awesome still. Wow, check out that old Jeep right there. That thing is serious. Oh my gosh. Normally I would spend a little bit more time on this, but we have to take a quick look over here to the left because I found something that is even more serious. Holy crap. Look at this Suburban. That is nuts. So this would be a 4th generation Suburban, so somewhere between 55 and 59. It's got a lot of chrome. Oh my goodness, this thing is ridiculous. I wonder if they just dropped this on some other chassis. Those leaf springs are massive. Oh wow, check out this old Mercedes W126. Let's see, this is a 380 SE, and these things are kind of tanks. And I remember seeing some of these on Facebook Marketplace, and they're really not that expensive. What do we have lurking back here? This looks like a Monte Carlo SS. Wow, that thing is awesome. That is like a mullet on wheels. It is so cool. I wonder if it's a real Monte Carlo SS or if it's a tribute or a replica. Can never quite tell with these. Kind of looks like the real deal. So this looks like maybe like an 87, that would be my guess. Something like that. It's got aftermarket wheels on it, which is not my favorite, but still looks pretty rad. I remember these things looking so badass back in the day, but actually being pretty slow. I had a friend that had one of these things and it was not very quick. Honestly, can't believe it. Yet another old Chevy truck. So as it turns out, it's not PT Cruisers that are the cockroaches of the automotive world. It's these 2nd gen Chevy CK trucks. They are just still everywhere here. All right, so that's super cool. Kind of a lowered K5 Blazer, a Cheyenne edition. These things are pretty rad. So I used to see these things all over as a kid, but you know, I grew up in Massachusetts, so most of these rusted to pieces. So this looks like maybe a mid-70s K5 Blazer based on the round headlights. Wow, a Rambler, something I haven't seen in a long time. Tool sticker on the back. An actual classic compact car. Such a simple but good looking shape. All right, so I'm definitely running out of sunlight. The sunset's starting to look pretty beautiful over there, but I don't think there's a whole lot more car spotting that I'm going to get into this day. Can you believe how many 2nd gen Chevy trucks we saw today? I had no idea, and I haven't even really ridden that far today. And 2 maroon Mitsubishi Galants, what are the chances of that? Anyway, that's gonna be it for today. Thanks so much for watching. If you like this video and you wanna see more car spotting videos like this one, please consider subscribing and hitting that bell icon. Also be sure to like this video, because that helps the good old algorithm algorithm. If you'd like to help support the channel, please buy a Hello Road t-shirt or hat at helloroad.tv/shop. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you're well, and I'll see you soon.